monsters are coming out.
We found the internet, we found the ham, and we found all these like-minded guys. And the ham was so exciting. It was kind of like, it was information, but it was a bunch of guys that were just ranking on each other and having fun. You know, it was like, it was kind of like social media before there was social media. So the whole thing became like, well, I'm out in my hot rod, what can I do to make people laugh on the ham or post a picture or do something? And this dude, Sam, posted a video on the ham of him doing a donut in his little Model T. And it was the coolest thing I had ever seen in my life. I couldn't believe it. So cool. I'm watching this video of this guy in California doing donuts in his car. And then I was like, wait a minute, I wonder if my car would do a donut. So I was here and I worked late back in those days. I got in the Roadster. I had just done some stuff to it. I changed some things around. I had to like test it, and my parking lot across the street is where I test stuff. So I went over there. It's like 2 in the morning, and I'm like, I'm gonna see if my car can do a donut. I had never done a donut before. So I came back to the shop and I'm like shaking, like literally like, oh my God, that was crazy. And my dad he lived up the road at the time. He's driving, he's a night owl too, driving by, he pulls in because he sees I'm here. I'm like, Dad, you gotta come with me across the street. So we go across the street and do donuts. I wrote the story and put it on the ham the next day. And then all of a sudden, I get messages from this guy from California, and he's like, yeah, I'm doing this video. I'm doing a video series, and it's gonna be like skateboard videos, but I want you to be in it, and I'm flying there. And I'm like, what? And this is like when reality TV was kind of a big deal, like Jesse James and the Orange County Choppers and all that stuff was like ruling the TV. And so and it was several months went by before he came, and I was telling my friends, and they're like, you're gonna be like Jesse James. And I was just like, no, I don't know what I'm gonna be like. I don't even know if this guy is legit. All of a sudden, it's the day, I'm running late. I have to get this guy at the airport. I don't know what he looks like or who he is. I'm like, is he gonna be some weird dorky guy? I have no idea. And I show up, and there he is, he's waiting, and he's like, dude, you're like 2 hours late. And I'm like, well, it just happened, like, sorry. So he got in, I had this car, and we were immediately like old friends. We got in, start driving. I'm like trying to be all cool. I'm like, here's Mr. California guy, he's seen every hot rod ever. And I remember getting on the freeway, and I had just topped off my radiator, and my radiator like was leveling itself, so we got sprayed with antifreeze. So here we are in Milwaukee, and we're just drenched in antifreeze, and we're driving our Roadster, and we're just in this Roadster, and we're just laughing. And that's when the Mad Fabricator Society started. We have started this bond of making these videos, just having fun. And to me, those videos are the true essence of hot rodding, what we did. We weren't trying to do anything to change the world. We were just having fun with cars. And it really, really registered with a lot of people. Like, he sold a lot of those DVDs to people around the world. And if it wasn't for that, I would have never had the opportunity to move to Austin. I would have never had the opportunity to build most of the cars that I've built. The whole thing revolves around me doing donuts at 2:30 in the morning and Piero seeing it and thinking that that's cool. So I don't know where we all went wrong, but this is how we are. So really, if it wasn't for that time, him coming here, being like realizing he can travel and film things, he might not be doing these videos of all of our friends. So the Mad Fabricator Society, it all comes full circle, and it is a true brotherhood of hot rodding, of building stuff, of fabricating, of making the world a smaller place, and trying to get all of our friends to have a hot rod. And that's really all it is. So this is Troy's truck. This truck came about a few years back, and it's just a great example of customer and shop relationship. He saw another truck at a local car show that we built the chassis for, and the guy told him, hey, you should go talk to those guys. He had a bunch of ideas, but he wasn't really into hot rods, but he wanted one. So we started talking about it. He wanted a little truck. First, he was kind of basic with what he just hadn't been exposed to a lot. We decided a Hemi would be the perfect thing for the car because he's kind of a Mopar guy. I was searching the internet just trying to find like cool old intakes, like what are the options? And I ran across this horn intake, and I sent it to him, and I was like, listen, man, this is the holy grail of Hemi intakes. I'm not expecting you to buy this, but if you wanted what I think is the coolest, then this is what you should get. And all of a sudden he's like, yep, I got it, let's do it. So I was like, whoa, new level. So it went from being kind of a simple kind of cruise night hot rod to something that we wanted to build around that intake. So I was like, now you have that intake, now we have to make the truck worth it. And when I say the relationship between the customer and the shop, it's really great because he gained trust in us and he let us run with it. And throughout the process, we've become really good friends. He's turned into the biggest hot rod nerd. So it turned into this like back and forth thing that made this truck incredible. And his attitude of letting us go, trusting me, trusting in the guys of the shop to follow through made this a really special car and one of my favorite cars I've ever built. He wanted an angry little truck, but we wanted to make an angry little truck that was super classy because this intake. Davey Bleed, he doesn't work here anymore because he was commuting pretty far. He is responsible for a lot of the craftsmanship that went into this truck. My idea is us talking back and forth. He made it to the next level. And I'm just so proud of the truck and proud of him. And everybody else in the shop that's worked on it has done such a great job. So I just want to make it clear when I say we, it's not me, it's us and everyone who's been here. It's a 34 Ford pickup. It has this 354 Hemi with the horn intake, 4 chrome Strombergs. It has Electroline headlights, tons and tons of handmade stuff. And it has, very few aftermarket parts. It's got a quick change, a Hellbrand quick change, chrome drilled axle, backing plates. It's got crazy handmade headers that have like a cool arc to them. They're stainless. The entire bed was handmade, and I always wanted to do a chrome bed, and just so the bead was chrome and you paint everything else. So when we made the bed, I was like, well, let's make moldings that bolt to the bed and it'll look like we chromed the bed, but we only chromed the molding. So we made brass moldings and had those plated and attached those. The stake pockets mimic 1940 Ford stake beds because they're more roundy. They flow better than the 34 ones. They're real square. It has 39 Ford wide 5 wheels and brakes. We chromed the brake drums, so the brake drums kind of became the hubcap. You know, it's on our Ace Holes frame that we build that, you know, you've seen, you know, in Livewire and all the other Mad Fab stuff. The interior is pretty neat as well. Troy, becoming the hot rod nerd that he is, found a really awesome early Stuart Warner 5-gauge panel. It's all curved glass gauges. The seats are custom made to fit him. My favorite thing on the truck is kind of what inspired it for him. The tachometer is, it was in his dad's Impala. That was very important that was part of the build. So we have that, we made a cool bracket for it. The color turned out awesome. It was another thing. He wanted it like Washington blue. He kept showing me all these Washington blue trucks. It came time to paint and I was like, I don't know, I'm not feeling Washington blue with all this chrome. And I started looking for other blues and I wanted it to be a period color. And I found this 1956 Cadillac cobalt blue. It has this flop to it. I mean, it's an amazing color for being such an early metallic. So that then inspired the materials for the seats. We were just gonna do black tuck and roll, you know, but I was like, hey, what if we get some buttons and we use some vintage materials? So the materials are very close to what would have been in a 56 Caddy. It's kind of a lot of little stuff that kind of evolved into it. You know, for the most part, it's a pleasure to drive. It works great. And I'm just really proud of it. So anyway, I just, you know, wanted to show off this truck because we got it done. We took it to the Detroit Autorama and we were supposed to take it everywhere. And then COVID hit and we couldn't take it anywhere. So it's this great thing that I mean, people saw it in Detroit and it did really well there. We got the Faye Butler pick. We got a whole bunch of stuff. Like it was overwhelming how well it did there, but that was supposed to be all of last year and it didn't, we weren't able to take it anywhere. So it's just nice to get it in front of some people because it really needs to be seen.
Yet?
I don't know. I'm gonna stand in there and see how it works.
Yeah. Get squeeze. See you later.
Has ever been found. Why don't you stay with me all my life? Till you are mine. No greater heart has ever been found. You are mine.
How was that?
It was pretty good.
Sounded pretty good. Totally rocked that shit. sitting there spinning.
Oh, that's where it ended up.
Yeah, that's where it gets stuck.
Didn't quite make it. Sometimes it gets there on its own.
Yeah.
Most of the time, no. Alright, cool. So let me get you in the listening booth.
Wow, it sounds cool, right?
Yeah, it sounds really cool.
Why don't you stay with me all my life till you are mine? No greater heart
It sounds really cool.
has ever been found.
It's crazy.
Why don't you stay with me all my life till you are mine? Why don't you sing my song?
Boy, it sounds super cool.
I love it. It sounds like you were in 1952.
I'm gonna find one of those. Yeah. A little while back, these guys contacted me and they sent me all these pictures of this Roadster, and they knew that I'm like Survivor hot rod guy. So they sent pictures wondering what they should do with it, wondering what it might be worth, wondering if I had seen it before, and they were in Florida. And they didn't know much about it, but I kind of said, whoa, it's really neat. Sending me more pictures, is it for sale? And then I didn't hear about it at all. And several months went by, and all of a sudden I get a message from the guy again, and he's like, well, my friend's thinking of selling it because he's in over his head. The story I was told was the car was built in Chicago. It's an old hot rod. It had this crazy molded front end with Buick headlights and all kinds of crazy show rod stuff. In the pictures, it showed that there was chrome brake drums, chrome backing plates, chrome shoes, chrome wheel cylinders. So I was like, whoa, this thing was a serious show car at some point. The story was the car was from Chicago. The people moved to Florida in the 70s. The car was sold then. Then the car was sold back to the guy who brought it to Florida in the first place. And it sat there from like maybe mid to late 70s through when this guy got it. And it was his dad's. And he ended up with this car, and he liked it because he had history behind it, but he knew that he wasn't the right guy to like put it back on the road, and he wasn't that attached to it. So anyway, that's how I got it. Kind of tried to find info on it, couldn't find much, but deciphered it. So it has all the right stuff. They're all early hot rod stuff, but the car didn't look like an early hot rod. It had all this crazy molded stuff. Everything was chrome. It had this crazy grill. So dissecting the grill, I realized that it started off as a 32 grill. It was a 32 grill shell with like some sort of Pontiac and some sort of other crazy thing all leaded on it. The grill weighs like 75 pounds. It had that, and it had the molded rear fenders, and it had holes where there was Nerf bars supposedly, or it had a cool padded like Carson style top, but it was all kind of in disarray to the point where there was enough missing that what was there didn't look right together. So what I decided to do, rather than use the crazy grill, I figured we would it obviously had a 32 grill shell on it at some point, so we did that. And then I decided I needed to sell it. I was looking for another car. So what I do at these Survivors is I always try to find the right people. So I try to pass it on to someone who will get it, who won't want to take away the history and restore it or change it and make it their own, because in my mind, these Survivor cars are only Survivors once, so you just have to be careful. It's like owning a piece of art. Eric Bass called and was like, I'm interested. And I knew him. I have several mutual friends, and he is a big motorcycle guy and he's well respected. So we put the car together for him and Jenny and got it running and driving, kind of passed it on to them, and now it's part of their collection. So I wanted to do this little piece on it because it's such a neat car, and literally days before I was gonna contact them to come out here, I get a text from Eric saying, hey, is this the car? And it's in a magazine, and it was supposedly in a magazine, but we had no idea which one. And there it was, and it completely completes the picture. The missing parts are all in the picture. It had what looks to be stock front fenders that were all bobbed crazy, and they kind of flowed into the crazy grill. Had Nerf bars, it was gold with scallops. The article says the car was from Ohio. So, at this point, I still believe it was an early hot rod. All the stuff it has, the front axle is crazy, it's filled. The flathead, the simplicity of the car, to me, makes it an early 50s build that was probably updated in the early 60s after the a la carte came out, because it has that kind of a la carte vibe. Now that Eric found that magazine, we kind of have the recipe to complete the story if we want. They enjoy driving it the way it is, and it looks really cool. With the 32 shell on, it just looks like the classic 50s hot rod. It just has this golden purity to it, which I just love. But if they choose, we could actually recreate the front fenders and the Nerf bars and all of that stuff. It's a 31 Ford Roadster. It's on a 32 frame. It has a built-up flathead. It has 39 trans. It has like a 40 Ford rear. The motor was all apart when I got it. I had to, free up some valves, and I had to put a piston in it because it had eaten a bolt or something. But the motor was barely any miles, super clean. The dash is weird. It's like wood with this real thin aluminum sheet metal over the dash, and it has some Stuart Warner gauges that are spread out. I would imagine that was all done quickly when it was in show rod mode. So I had the seat redone. And the body has tons of subtle modifications. The firewall is all molded in. The door hinges are molded in. The entire back is like one molded pan, and it had Nerf bars, and the exhaust went through the back. And it has some sort of molded in taillights. All of that stuff would have been done probably in the late 50s, early 60s, when it was inspired by all the show rods at the time. There's also a sunken in license plate, but yeah, it has tons of custom touches all over the place. It's interesting now to see the differences, and it's like they all tell a story, and that's why I love these Survivor cars so much. And this one's story is crazy because it was an early hot rod, and it obviously got updated, and then it stayed that way, but it lost its parts. So where are the fenders? Where's those Nerf bars? When, I would imagine at some point they probably were their plan was probably to turn it into more the way it is now, kind of get rid of that crazy 60s stuff. But I'm glad that enough of it has survived. So anyway, it's just a great car, and now it really couldn't be in better hands. And Jenny and Eric came to see the car. They loved it. They wanted to add it to their collection. And the goal was to have it running and driving by Torquefest. And like everything else, it ran and drove, but barely. Like I was having trouble getting the clutch to work. And it literally, the only time I drove it was onto the trailer to get it to the show. And then I drove it off the trailer. And then they came and they're excited to see it. And there's a dirt track there. And they came down and they're like, hey, could we just drive it over by our motorcycles? And then I knew they were gonna take it on the track because there's a big dirt track. So I ran down there with Bobby Joe and there it was on the track. So really the first time it was driven in, who knows, 40 years or so, it was on a dirt track, and they drove several laps and I took it for a couple laps, and it was awesome. It did really well. So it's cool for it to be a hot rod that was in all these shows. Like everything was chrome, it was like a jewel, and then it sat around for, you know, a generation, 3 generations probably, and then it finally gets running again, and then it goes immediately to a dirt track, and it was all full of dirt. It was awesome. And I knew they had like a lot of really great motorcycles, but when we came here to visit the car, I was just completely floored by what they have. So I think we're gonna do a little garage tour, and it'll just kind of seal how it is in the right hands. And this is, it's amazing. The car is like it's nothing compared to what is in this garage with it. So it's kind of an honor that it's here for me. I had known that this is Eric Bass. I had known that he had some really amazing kind of survivor vintage motorcycles, race bikes, old Harleys, but I had no idea what we were walking into. So the car is just a little bit of this story. So we're just gonna get the quickie kind of nickel tour of, man, we could spend days here. Like it's pretty awesome.
Little Harley heaven.
Yeah.
Let's start the bathroom. This is probably my favorite bike that's in progress. It's a 1961 KR, Harley Davidson KR dirt track racer. Got to have a bike sitting in the research and development room.
Yeah, that's where he figured out where the hot rod was in the magazine. So.
Yeah.
Old trophies and old race suits and Harley can. Look at that. Like just this is awesome. This display, the battery display.
I've been into the Harley, world for many years. Starting with my folks, my dad's, a lot of his friends that we used to ride with over the years. And one particular guy, Max Drew, known him for years and never knew that his father had a Harley dealership 20 miles from my house, which was called West Side Garage. Started as a Cadillac and Oldsmobile car dealership. And then Harley Davidson said, yeah, you can have a dealership, buy a case of oil, and you got a Harley Davidson dealership. So they did. And so yeah, West Side Garage became West Side Harley Davidson. Some more local history. Tursky Cycle. That was Ray Tursky. He was a factory Harley Davidson racer, Madison, Wisconsin. That's his Goulding Tri-Car, which is a 1941 knucklehead motor. He used to, before it had the Goulding conversion, the 3-wheel setup on it, he used to dirt track race this motorcycle through Harley Davidson's race team.
That is cool. So that is some sort of conversion kit that they manufacture.
Yeah, Goulding out of Saginaw, Michigan.
I mean, I'm not a Harley guy or a motorcycle guy. I just like neat stuff.
Yep.
So they raced this then? So wait.
Yeah, he raced this bike.
He raced it, so probably early.
In the late 30s. In 1941, they built this contraption,
So it's
I guess.
been like this since 41.
Yeah, it's a brand new crate motor. 1941 crate motor that they shoved in there.
The frame is like 30s.
The frame is a 38.
Okay.
Yeah. Number 1 was L.D. Wilwert, Dubuque, Iowa. That was his race bike. Ancient Iron, 71G, that's my favorite bike. I raced a lot of dirt tracks with that. My sister's kind of part of the race team. She races 56C.
What's the story on that?
Yeah, it's a drag bike that we built last summer. Will Hull, he helps me with a lot of motorcycle work, and he built that bike, and now we have some serious fun with it.
Yeah.
Servicars, I love the Servicars. The red one, 1956, was Lacrosse Oldsmobile car dealership. That was their bike that they would use to go and get customers' cars to bring them back to the shop and service. The white one, the 1959, Reedsburg Police Department, 20 miles north of here.
Yeah, that's not far from here,
Yeah.
right? Wow.
I'll take that down to a show like 4th of July, and some of the locals, hey, I was pulled over by Elmer on that motorcycle, back in the 60s.
Yeah. And you said this was your first one you did?
Yeah, 41A is a 1945 knucklehead. That was like the first bike we built, Will and I. I've got a photo in the other room when I was 6 years old on that little guy.
On that?
Yeah, doing a wheelie on that. This is a 1965 Ironhead Sportster drag bike.
Man.
We had to do a little bit of, well, actually quite a bit of extra work. Nathan from Full Moon Cycle down in Dubuque, Iowa, he helped finish this one out.
For me, these like early drag bikes are the ones they're the most like hot rods to me. For sure. The guy who rode that is crazy.
Yeah.
He's one of the guys that rides
That's true. Man, you're crazy.
Oh, there's the Full Moon. That's the guy that built this bike. This one here is a riding buddy of my dad's back in the day. He passed away a few years back, and his daughter saved the bike and got it. Well, Will Hull out of Dubuque, he got it running again, and basically kept in the family. Yeah, that's Jade. That's a bike we built before COVID for the Mama Tried show.
What is that? Is that like
This is a 1947 knucklehead.
Okay.
Yeah, this is my daily rider, little bar hopping bobber.
Yeah.
That's a 1942 knucklehead.
How many knuckleheads do you have?
13 knuckleheads. This is pretty much a survivor bike. There's a couple trinkets that I've added to it. Probably the greasiest bike in here is this red bike. My wife Jenny, she rides this one. This is her daily rider, but this bike, it almost looks like it's a barn find, but we built this thing totally from swap meet.
What's
Parts.
the deal with the handlebars?
Like around 1940, Atlas and Bigsby, the whammy bar
guitar
on
guys?
Fender.
Yeah.
He made the risers.
Whoa.
And tree, and we think he
so
made
awesome.
the bars, but we don't know, the handlebars. But there's no accessory catalogs back there to actually say who made these bars. Everybody, that's the question of the century, but we have 2 sets of them.
Bigsby made those guitars. I know a lot about guitar.
Yeah.
I've used Bigsby's a lot, but he made some crazy, funky looking, like artsy shaped guitars.
There's a set of risers on a bike in the other room that are 100% Bigsby made, and they are goofy, just like you said. 1946 knucklehead. My cousin Jason, he comes down, and it's his favorite bike to bar hop with us on. Yeah, we built this bike, from scratch just a couple years ago. Yeah, a few old jalopies. This is the one I rode out to Sturgis this year. Not a single problem with it, unbelievable. But a 1938 EL knucklehead.
Does it take you to, like, how long is
We
that
took
ride?
3 days, you just take it easy. And
Yeah.
All right, this is getting closer to the heart of putting motorcycles together. This is the next racing project we're trying to do. Need to find a few more parts to get it going.
I guess you might just have to look around.
I don't know, we're gonna find some parts right here.
I'm not sure, man. It's a 1948 WR factory Harley racer. That's probably the coolest thing in here, actually. Flanders handlebar display. So that would hang either in the salesman's garage for his handlebars or in a dealership.
But early days,
early
there wasn't
days,
a lot of
no.
like hop-up parts for
Definitely not.
Harleys.
So yeah, Bigsby, I mean, he was, that's early. You know, that's probably late 30s, early 40s. Yeah, these risers,
look at that.
the
They are
same
funky.
dude that made the whammy bar on Fender guitars,
Yeah,
made those risers.
that's so cool. I never knew that.
They are, I don't think there's a single motorcycle in the US that has a pair of those. The Tursky bike, the Tricar, the Knucklehead three-wheeler, this is Ray Tursky.
Whoa.
And I believe that's the
That's the
motorcycle.
bike.
Yeah.
Before you got the thing on.
Before he, yeah.
Wow.
That's awesome.
I wasn't prepared for this at all. Like I thought we were coming to see the hot rod and some cool motorcycles, but it's a history lesson. I have some plans, and I like being not a motorcycle guy. I'm gonna get one. I'm gonna build it, and it's gonna piss off all the motorcycle guys. But I think the real motorcycle guys will appreciate it. That's
For
what
sure.
I'm hoping anyway.
Yep.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for showing us everything.
Oh, hell yeah, man.
And I'm just so glad. Like I said, I think you're the perfect guy for this car, and
We love the car, man, for
yeah,
sure.
I just can't.
It's part of the family now.
Yeah,
It
that's
ain't
awesome.
going nowhere.
That's awesome. That's awesome.